Hey, I'm Carter. I'm on the team that helps deliver the Notion CLI, and today I want to talk about 4 of the key design principles we use when building the CLI.
And I'm Anthony, also a software engineer here on Carter's team, but I didn't get anywhere near as deep into the weeds as Carter did, so I'm gonna make sure he really breaks this down for us here.
Okay, we'll get started and install the CLI here.
Cool.
And you immediately can see some of the commands available. I want to talk about the first principle, progressive disclosure. So if you run NTN help, you see all the top level commands available. And this isn't everything the Notion CLI can do. This is just the top level namespaces. We don't want to dump every single possible command on users or agents from the get-go. We want to allow exploration, right? So here you can see, well, there's data sources, files, pages, and each of these perhaps has subcommands that you can drill in and continue to explore and learn.
What?
Yeah, so I think workers is a good one because it's very deep actually. So NTN workers, you can run this and you see that there are like additional subcommands you might need to run. So NTN workers help.
Oh yeah, okay.
Shows
There's a lot you can do underneath the worker's namespace.
There's a lot you can do under the worker's namespace, that's exactly right. And importantly, with this noun-verb structure of NTN workers command, you know that this is all you can do with workers.
Yeah,
so this is exhaustive for workers.
I see. It's funny that you don't want to dump too much on humans because it'll overwhelm them, and it's kind of the same for agents too in the context windows.
That's exactly right. If we print too much information, that actually costs users money in their context window. It causes compaction, it's bad for your session. So,
and so is this the exhaustive list of everything with workers?
So this is the exhaustive list of subcommands in the worker's namespace. And some of these, of course, can also have different options available.
I see.
Right?
Okay, so you just keep progressing down.
Right, so it's tree shape. So
what's a good example of that?
So yes, we need NTN worker sync, right, which says manage syncable capabilities.
Right.
So we can see what those options are. Okay, you can trigger, you can manage syncable state, get the status, and you have some of the other options like verbose here. So this concept of being able to drill in and explore and learn what's in the CLI with these help commands is an important part of progressive disclosure. So the next thing I want to walk through here are the error messages and how we try to make those actionable. So for example, NTN worker sync trigger, we just saw that command in our help docs. But if you run it, it actually fails. And we could throw an opaque error, but instead we give you this usage, right? NTN worker sync trigger requires a key.
Right, it's almost like I can just copy and paste that and use it. It's very straightforward what the next step is.
That's right. So hopefully this is already a very actionable error, but sometimes also error messages can be sort of more sophisticated. So this command will query a data source by ID, and in this case, it's actually 404 not found. Well, that is what the server responds. This CLI can't find that data source, but what's likely happening here, and we want to provide this feedback for users, is that this data source simply isn't shared with the CLI key.
I see. So programmatically, it's a 404, but what we know is probably happening is you just don't have permission to access the data source.
That's right.
So give that next step to the user.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's also helpful to drill in to the exact API request made from the CLI in case you're as a developer, you really are curious to see. Yeah, so here you can see the full response, the request that was made, and our interpretation of that.
And it kind of builds on the progressive disclosure where you don't want to see this every time.
That's right.
But we let you just keep digging in, drilling, and it's going to help you help yourself, help an agent help you out, or you can provide this to us for feedback on what's going wrong.
That's exactly right. So the next thing I want to talk about is standard out and standard error and how we use these to facilitate scripting on top of the CLI. So for example, NTN workers list JSON verbose will give you some data back about what workers you have, and that's the white text here at the bottom, and it'll also give you auxiliary information verbosely about that request, which is the grayed out text above. And the data, your workers list here is going to standard out, and the auxiliary request has gone to standard error.
Oh, so this is both standard error and then standard out, but all just printing out to the terminal.
That's right.
Okay, I would not think to put auxiliary data to standard error, so why would I do that?
That's right. Looking at it here, it hardly matters, but this becomes really important when you want to script on top of the CLI, right? So if we're adding all auxiliary messages to standard out, you can't then pipe that to JQ and extract, for instance, your IDs.
I see,
The auxiliary
right.
information would corrupt the JSON payload. So by separating these to two different file descriptors, you can both give that helpful information that people have requested, the verbose, while still allowing piping to JQ or awk.
That's great. I think it's pretty easy to just sit there and just pipe everything to standard out without really thinking about this, but it's a great distinction.
That's right. You can't just print line everything from the CLI. Yeah, lastly, I want to talk about interactive and non-interactive modes in the terminal and how the CLI is built for both. And so far, everything we build in the CLI is really good for both developers and also agents, right? Humans and agents. This last one is sort of the fork. And respecting both an interactive terminal for human developers as well as a non-interactive terminal for agents is critical to building a good modern CLI. So a really good example of that is login. We want it to be a great experience for users in the terminal, so we give you this prompt, well, where do you want to log into? Or do you want to authenticate with a new workspace? But an agent or script can't choose a prompt interactively, right? So I can show what this looks like from the perspective of the agent.
So like simulates non-TTY here.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. So this will allow our CLI to detect that as a non-interactive execution, just like a script or an agent. And here, the login command actually falls back to a completely different behavior built for scripts and agents. So we provide this hint for agents, like show this URL to your user, ask them to click it, and then run this other command, poll, to wait for the user to authenticate.
It's interesting. Basically customize the CLI based on if it's an agent or a human, just by detecting if TTY is enabled or not.
That's right. You can automatically detect it and then configure your command for the audience. Okay, we covered a lot today. Anthony, you want to bring us through those remember the 4 high points?
Yeah. Progressive disclosure, actionable errors, standard out versus standard error, and interactive versus non-interactive.
So it's a lot to be thinking about all this when we were building the CLI. Really, the first thing we did is actually dump all this into a markdown file. And that helped us adhere to this as we're building. And yeah, we hope it landed us on a CLI that's really good for humans, really good for agents, can one-shot building a worker. And we hope you find that's the case if you choose to download the CLI and give it a try.